At that point, the clients wrote to us and said, "We've never been through anything like this in our lives." And honestly, in all of my years running this travel agency, I've never seen anything like this either. Fabulous people, welcome to the podcast for all the babes who create their own life trends. My name is Anastasia, and this podcast is all about inspiring you to relentlessly pursue your biggest dreams and live your most authentic, abundant life. This episode was inspired by a real story from one of my travel agency clients who recently flew from the US to Italy. And it perfectly shows how even the most well-planned trip can go wrong before you ever land. Even as I'm telling you this story, I feel absolutely terrible for the clients because just like majority of travelers, they've been looking forward to this trip for years. Every detail on the ground, accommodations, transfers, tours, activities, and even restaurant reservations was organized by my team at Fabulous Vita. But what no one can control is the flight to Italy itself. What you can control, though, is how you structure your itinerary to minimize the impact a delayed or canceled flight can have on your trip. So first, let me tell you exactly what happened. And then I'll share the most important flight tips for Italy that you absolutely need to know before clicking book on those plane tickets. So here's what happened, and let me take a nice deep breath because let me tell you, you will not believe this story. Also, I apologize if you can hear some dogs barking on the background. I'm in Rome, guys. I'm in one of the busiest cities in the world. So, of course, if you hear any background noise, this is just the soundtrack that Rome is providing today. So, around 11 p.m. Italy time, we received a message from clients saying that they're already at the airport, but their flight from the US is now getting delayed. That is not a big deal, as honestly it happens with every other flight from the US. So we assured the client that this is not a problem and contacted their water taxi right away, letting them know that potentially client's flight will be delayed. Then around 5 a.m., we received another message from the clients. They told us that they first boarded the plane and then they had to disembark it again because apparently there were some technical issues with the aircraft. Ouch. Of course, I was very happy that they found out about it as they were beginning to fly and not during the flight itself, because imagine finding that out as you're flying across the ocean. Now, they waited a bit longer, and after some time, they were told that their flight was completely canceled for that day. Now, they were rebooked for a flight for the next day, but now they actually had one connection in Paris. So the next day, clients went back to the airport, and guess what? Their flight was delayed again. Now, because they had a very short window of connection in Paris, they missed their flight in Paris. So when they arrived to Paris, they had to be rebooked for the next flight. And guess what? Their flight in Paris was late as well. Now, finally, when they arrived to Venice, all exhausted and hoping to finally begin their adventure, they were told that their bags are lost. At that point, the clients wrote to us and said, "We've never been through anything like this in our lives." And honestly, in all of my years running this travel agency, I've never seen anything like this either. Now imagine if in parallel to all of this, they had to deal with all the nuances and logistics on the ground, reorganizing, rearranging, canceling all the tours, activities, transportation. I cannot even imagine how they would have felt at this point. And as a matter of fact, the client told us that honestly, we would have probably just canceled the entire trip and stayed home at that point. And I get it because it truly took colossal amount of work, deep expertise and experience on Italy travel to make sure that this trip is fully rearranged and continue running smoothly, as the clients were of course dealing with their situation with flights. First, we had to rearrange the water taxi 3 times. First time when the flight got canceled, the second time when the flight was delayed, and then the third time we actually had to reroute the water taxi. So instead of taking the clients to the train station, because unfortunately by that point they missed the entire Venice part and they were already on their way to the next destination, we had to reroute the water taxi to the airport so they can pick up their bags. Now, we also knew that it wouldn't be smart for clients to take another water taxi from the airport to the Santa Lucia train station. So instead, after picking up their luggage at the airport, we had them take a cab to the Mestre train station. The details that only a local travel agency could know. And of course, we made sure to update the tickets for them. In addition, we had to notify the hotel on the client's flight situation, rearrange and reorganize all their tours and activities, like a tour of Venice on a gondola ride, a private visit to the Doge's Palace, St. Mark's Basilica, a day trip to Murano, to the incredible Murano glass factory to see and experience how those one-of-a-kind works of art being created. And that is why I always say that working with a local travel agency will always save you so much time, stress, and unnecessary spending. So let's talk about what most travelers don't realize about booking flights to Italy. The simple details that can completely change how your trip begins or ends. One of the biggest challenges that I see when it comes to flights to Italy is that often travelers underestimate how unpredictable European connections can be, especially if you are connecting through the cities like Paris or Frankfurt. Those airports are massive, guys, and they are extremely busy year-round. And on top of that, most of the time, you will have to switch terminals. And one very important thing that many travelers don't realize is that if you're connecting through another European city on your way to Italy, that's actually where you'll go through passport control and customs, not when you land in Italy. So it will definitely take extra time. And that is why I always recommend 2 to 3 hours at least for your European connection. Ideally, even more, because even the slightest delay can create a domino effect where you will be rebooking your flights, rearranging your airport pickups, rescheduling all your tours and activities, and potentially even spending one night at the transit hotel. Nightmare. When possible, always choose direct flights to Rome, Florence, Milan, etc. Not only do you arrive faster, but you significantly reduce the chances of lost luggage or missed connections. Another mistake that I see often even with the best planners is scheduling your first activity too close to your arrival time. Because let's just imagine the most perfect world where you arrive perfectly on time. You have to remember that you still have a process ahead of you. You have to pick up your luggage, clear the customs if you're entering through Italy, Find your driver or find a mode of transportation to get to your accommodation. You have to count, of course, for the traffic that you will most likely encounter in Italy. And once you get to your accommodation, you have to check in or at least leave your luggage so then you can go and begin exploring. So you have to take all these pieces into consideration. In major airports like Rome Fiumicino or Milan Malpensa, this can easily take 1 to 2 hours, sometimes even more. So if you've planned your first tour an hour after landing, you are setting yourself up for unnecessary stress before your trip even begins. Now let's talk about specifically your first day in Italy, because that of course sets the tone for everything that follows. Most international flights from the US arrive quite early in the morning, but most Airbnbs and hotels in Italy are not available for check-in until 2, sometimes 3 p.m. That means you'll probably be tired, jet-lagged, and not yet able to check in. So what a lot of people do, they actually either try to push through and pack their day with things, or they just sit in a hotel lobby waiting for their room to become available. And I actually witnessed this a few weeks ago, so it reminded me that I absolutely have to mention it during this episode. I entered the hotel lobby around 11 a.m. and it was packed, guys. It was packed with tourists, mainly from the US, waiting on their rooms to become available. They were sitting in the lobby, they were waiting and waiting, and I know that they've been waiting for quite some time because even after my meeting with the manager of the hotel was over, because I was at the hotel to check out their new rooftop, which was absolutely incredible over the entire Centro Storico and also some of their penthouse suites. She wanted to show me all the upgrades. After our meeting, which took about an hour and a half, I was exiting the lobby. The same people were still sitting and waiting. And I thought to myself, how unfortunate, because instead of sitting in that hotel lobby, they can begin enjoying and exploring the beauty of the Eternal City in the most relaxed and convenient way at their own pace. And that's why a golf cart tour or vintage car tour is absolutely perfect for your first day, especially in cities like Rome or Florence. You can sit back, see the main highlights, and enjoy that magical first taste of Italy without exhausting yourself. Your first day should never be about doing it all. It should be about arriving well. Because when you give yourself that soft landing, the rest of your trip unfolds with ease. And here is another golden rule that I always share with my clients. Make sure that you are spending the last night in the city you will be departing from. Do not take any chances. If you are departing from Rome, spend your last night in Rome. If you are departing from Florence, spend your last night in Florence, etc. Because this is Italy. Things can always happen. Train strikes, traffic jams, you just never know. So do not take any chances. When you start planning the order of cities in your itinerary, think about how your flights fit into that structure. Depending on your route, it sometimes makes sense to fly into one city and out of another, especially if you are covering a lot of Italy from north to south or vice versa. For example, you can fly into Milan or Venice, then travel through Rome and Florence, and fly out of Naples or even Palermo if you plan on exploring Sicily. This, of course, will save you so much time and will help you to avoid unnecessary backtracking. The only downside is that these flights are typically more expensive than round-trip tickets to the same airport, but the convenience and time saved often make it worth it. Finally, and this is very important, always double check the airport that you will be flying in and out, even if you're flying in and out of the same city. Because a lot of travelers don't realize that certain cities in Italy, like for example Rome or Milan, actually have two airports. So just because you flew into Fiumicino Airport in Rome, it does not necessarily mean that you will be flying out from Fiumicino Airport, especially if you have a connection in Europe on your way back. So always double check to make sure you know exactly which airport you will be flying in and especially flying out of. I don't need to mention how important that is. So to sum it all up, flights can be unpredictable. You can't control the airline, but you can control how prepared you are. A few smart decisions before you click book can make all the difference between a stressful start and a smooth arrival. And that's where working with the professional local travel agency makes all the difference. At Fabulous Vita, we take care of everything from the moment you land to the moment you depart. Your transfers, accommodations, curated tours, activities, and even dinner reservations. So you can simply arrive and enjoy Italy exactly as it should be experienced. Because while your flight might be unpredictable, your time in Italy should feel effortless and well planned. And of course, I will make sure to leave you the link to the concierge service of my Fabulous Vita travel agency in the description down below. And before you go, you already know I'm going to ask you a question because I absolutely love this conversation. Let's keep it going. And I would love to know, have you ever had a flight delay or cancellation that completely derailed your trip? And if you have, how did you handle it? Please share with me and the fabulous community. Let's keep this conversation going. Let's share all the tips and tricks with each other. And I already cannot wait to read all of your comments and of course to talk to you in my next episode. And if you're just as passionate as I am about exploring this incredible world, don't just listen, join me. Make sure to smack that subscribe button, whether you're listening on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify. Let's explore this incredible world together, one unforgettable story at a time. This is Anastasia signing off from Rome. I cannot wait to talk to you in my next episode. Until then, and always, stay fabulous.